Okay, so for my presentation, I wanted to do kind of a mix between a podcast and a slideshow. And the topic is actually inspired by a couple of verses in John chapter 1, and I'll get to those. But the doctrine that I wanted to focus on was about truth, and more specifically about Christ being the central truth in not only the gospel of Jesus Christ as we know it in the restored church, but also in the world. And one part of the first vision that has always really stuck with me, I think it's beautiful language, and I also think it cuts to the core of what it is to have a testimony, is when the prophet Joseph is talking about the revelations that he received, and he says, I knew it, and I knew that God knew it, and then he goes on to say, and I could not deny it, and talking about that vision. And I think that there are aspects of truth that are difficult to pin down, but one part of it is that whether or not it is known, truth can't be denied. It will exist whether or not we choose to align ourselves with it or against it, or if we behave indifferently towards it, truth will continue to exist, and Jesus Christ is the truth. And I've always found it very interesting that when we talk about truth, and the gospel, we'll talk about things like revelation and restoration. And those aren't languages of discovery or of creation or innovation or anything like that. It's language of something being uncovered. And that's always been very rife with implication to me, because the truth is not something that is created or hidden or destroyed. It's much like matter in that it can never be created or destroyed, it just exists. And so when we come to know truth, we call it revelation, because it's as though something that has been hidden is removed and thus it is revealed. And I've always found that to be very indicative of how God sees truth and how the eternities will be laid before us. So that's a little bit of background, and now to the crux of the scripture. So John chapter 1 is talking about Christ, and Christ himself is called the light and the life of the world. And in a talk that Elder Uchtdorf gave, he spoke about the existence of truth. And he said that the thing about the truth is that it exists outside of belief. Even if nobody believes it, that thing is still true. And in a variety of settings, this is the case. It's the case with scientific truth and with the truth of people's lives and the truth of the creation and laws that govern the universe and all sorts of things. Truth is still truth regardless of its context, and it's true even if no one believes it. And so the scriptures that I've been referring to, they read, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And so in these verses, it's referring to Christ, and Christ is in a lot of different ways the light and life of the world. He is the light of the world in a symbolic way because he brings a great deal of hope. We are taught that the light of Christ is in and of itself an understanding born into every man of truth, of the ability to recognize what is true and what is not. But I also think it reflects on Christ's nature as something that is innately true. Christ is in and of himself truth because he's like light and darkness, that even if darkness can't comprehend the light will exist regardless. And it really struck me that absolute truth does exist. And we can worry about the relativity of laws and changing societal norms. And we can even quibble about what is eternal and what isn't eternal. But our definitions don't matter. Differences of opinion will always exist. But there are truths that are both immutable and unchangeable. And God won't deny them, and we won't be able to deny them either once truth is known. And that is my little presentation. So thanks for watching/listening.